This is an example of how the last question on the SAT could look like, and this is from the official practice test by College Board. And if you want to try the whole test, the link will be in the description for your convenience. Here, we are given this equation, and the goal is to find this possible integer k, so the equation has no real solutions. Where do we even start? And you know it, since this is the last question, it's usually the hardest one. But let's just do the usual business. Notice we have x times this thing, so let's just distribute the x. X times kx, we get k, x times x is x squared. And then this times that is just minus 56x. Now, we actually have a quadratic equation because we have the x squared term. So let's make this side equal to 0. Add 16 to both sides. This right here stays the same. But we will have plus 16, and that is equal to 0. Now, the question becomes, when do we have a quadratic equation that has no real solutions? How can we make that happen? Well, of course, we have the quadratic formula, but here's the main thing from the quadratic formula. It's inside of the square root. And let me remind you guys right here. When we have the equation ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, this right here has no real solutions. If you know the usual formula is negative b plus or minus square root and all that, here though, we just care about inside of the square root, and that is b squared minus 4ac, just inside of the square root. And you know it, if the inside of the square root is what? And we won't have any real number. If it's negative, right? Good. So if this is less than 0, imagine you take the square root of a negative number, you get complex numbers. It's not real anymore. So this is the condition that we need. So let's go by there. A is k, because that's a coefficient of x squared. And then b is negative 56, and c is 16. So right here, all we need is b squared, which is negative 56 squared, minus 4. A is k, and c is 16. We need to make sure this whole thing is less than 0. Now we just have to work this out. Right here, you can just use a calculator. It's okay to use a calculator on the SAT. So multiply this out, you will get 3136. And then you can multiply this out, that's negative 64k. And that is less than 0. Now, I'm going to add 64k to both sides. This way you don't have to worry about flipping the inequality because dividing by negative. If you're just adding this to both sides, just make sure you keep it like this. 3136 is less than 64k. Then this is positive 64k times, I will just have to divide both sides by 64. They cancel. If you work this out on the calculator, you'll get 49, and that is still less than because 64 was positive, and then we have the k. Okay, right here it says 49 is less than k. This is the same as saying k is greater than 49. If you look backwards, it's a little bit easier to look at it like this because we usually like to read it from left to right. So we need the least possible integer k. Remember, integer means whole number, and we want the smallest possible whole number to make this work. Whole number greater than 49. What's the next whole number? A little bit bigger than 49. 50. So we know that k has to be 50. And that is the answer. Just like that.